The defense counsel, Nicole Westmoreland, did such an effective job this morning of destroying the testimony of Bana, aka Bana, that it may affect the state's entire case. I want to break that down for you. Also, what steps the state took to try and mitigate whatever damage to her testimony may have occurred through the cross-examination. And where does Trump fit into all this? Because, well, they were using Trump to blow her up. I'm Joe Neerman, aka Good Logic. I'm a New York attorney. I'm a litigator who has litigated in this very courthouse in the Southern District of New York. I'm bringing to you legal perspectives as to what is happening in this trial. If that sort of thing is your deal, please like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell so you get notifications of every drop I give you from inside the Diddy courtroom. Now, Bana testified yesterday to the fact, or her claim, that on September 26, 2016, Diddy came into Cassie's house, her apartment on the 17th floor, and held her over the edge of the balcony while screaming at her, "You know what you did, you know what you did," and that she was terrified before he allegedly threw her onto the balcony furniture and caused her serious injuries to her leg and to her head and neck. Now, we saw pictures yesterday with metadata of her leg injuries. She alleged that she took those pictures later that same day on September 26, 2016. That's how we're able to pin in this date. Well, yesterday there was an extensive cross-examination which was very damaging to her credibility, and the fact that the stories seemed to change and morph through time, and depending on who's telling it. It would change with respect to who was there. It would change with respect to what was going on beforehand, what Bana was doing immediately before Diddy showed up, what direction she was facing. Was she facing towards the balcony door or towards the view? What parts of her body she touched. It's changed in a lot of different ways. That all came up yesterday, but the explosive testimony and cross-examination that came up today was she was questioned about Diddy and Cassie's schedule on September 25th, 2016, one day beforehand. And it turns out that night, Diddy was performing at the Prudential Center in New Jersey, and Cassie was there with him that evening. If that's not bad enough, they followed up with, on September 26th, the next day, that he was attending a benefit celebrating achievements of boys and girls in New York City. Now, Cassie's apartment is in Los Angeles, and supposedly this all happened the morning of September 26, 2016, which, when we're seeing this and hearing questions about that, she's like, I don't know anything about their schedule. I don't know about their schedule. It gets worse, because then she's shown that Diddy checked into the Trump Hotel on September 25th and did not check out until the 29th. That for that 5-day period, he was staying in the Trump Hotel. And in fact, on the morning of September 26, 2016, that there was in-room dining that was ordered. 3 different meals throughout the course of the day on September 26, 2016, ordered into Diddy's room. She's asked by Nicole Westmoreland, it's not possible for one person to be in 2 places at the same time. It's like, I don't understand. Well, if you're in New York, you can't be in LA at the same time, in theory. In theory? Okay? Her final question on cross-examination was, you lied to the ladies and gentlemen in this jury when you told them that Diddy caused you those injuries on September 26, 2016. And all she could say was, I don't agree. It was shocking. The viewing room I was in was abuzz. People could not believe that the metadata that she says she took the day of the incident, and that way pins it down as being September 26, 2016, is so directly refuted by forensic evidence, in the very least, of a hotel bill showing in-room dining to Diddy's room on that very same day, showing that he couldn't be there, and raising questions as to whether or not those injuries could have possibly been caused by Diddy. It gets worse because the balcony story has been told over by Cassie as well. They've both walked into this, and if Cassie's credibility is thrown into question, and the defense was working very hard to show that they both started changing their story to work their story together with respect to this balcony incident, this could start to raise questions for the jury as to whether they can trust Cassie. Because by the time they were done with Bana, certainly it seemed like there was a lot of questions you can have at the very least about her balcony story, if not all of her testimony. It was interesting to see what direction the state would go to try and repair this damage, especially that it shouldn't infect the testimony and credibility of the testimony of Cassie Ventura. And Ms. Smyser, on behalf of the state, did an effective job, in my opinion, of trying to show the distinction between Cassie's testimony and Bana's testimony. And she pointed out, she said, you didn't talk to Cassie before she filed her lawsuit, did you? No. Well, you spoke to her except for one time, yes. And what did she ask you during that one time that she spoke to you before she filed her lawsuit? She asked whether she could use my name in her lawsuit. And what did you respond to that? I asked her not to put my name in there. Did you know she was going to talk about the balcony incident? No. And you read her complaint afterwards, didn't you? Yes. And when you saw her complaint and you saw that she wrote about the balcony incident? Yes. And what did you do when you saw the way she told over the story of the balcony incident? I called her up and I told her that she had things wrong. Like she had wrong that she thought it was an hotel. She had wrong that she thought Terry was there, another person was there, that she wasn't there. So you weren't trying to work in cahoots with her. You were correcting what you saw in papers and you didn't know that she was going to put in her papers beforehand. That's the point that the state wants to make. Because if the jury comes to a conclusion that Cassie and her friends are working together to try and formulate stories for the purposes of trying to extort money out of Diddy, obviously that would go a long way towards destroying the credibility of these people who are raising claims against Diddy and trying, in theory, to put him behind bars. So that was the nature of the redirect, to try and show that, look, you might have problems with your memory, and that was the further redirect. She said, but are you positive that this incident happened at some point? What's the one thing you know about the balcony? I know that he held me up by the edge of the balcony. So the state is hoping, and how do you remember it? I remember it because of the terrifying fear I felt. The objective of the state here was basically to imply that perhaps there is blurriness to the memory that Bana has about the incident, but that definitely happened. And whether she took the picture at some later time or whatever, the point that the state wants us to believe is that the incident did in fact happen, and certainly that Bana and Cassie had not been concocting a story in cahoots with each other. On the recross from Nicole Westmoreland, she basically closed out with, you're not a rich woman, are you? No, and this is your opportunity to become a millionaire by suing Diddy, isn't it? I don't see it that way. Okay, well, you're suing him for $10 million. Well, that's about getting justice. And justice for you is getting $10 million, isn't it? I don't see it that way. Nothing further. That's what we had. It was explosive testimony. It was the type of testimony that most people salivate over watching, because you have here the forensic evidence which is directly refuting what happened, and the nature of how each side tries to deal with it in order to maximize the impact of this potential impeach, or how to fix that hole in the ship that the state was feeling, was a really fascinating piece of litigation that was being done by both sides this morning. Now, on a final note on this, in order to try and corroborate this story, there's a text message from September 30th that the state wants to get in, wherein Cassie was telling Christina Coram, who's a manager for Diddy, that she doesn't want Diddy to be around Bana because she tried throwing her off a balcony. Now, the question is whether or not this can get in because of hearsay issues. The state wants to argue that it's being offered for the purposes of her mental state, displaying Cassie's mental state, that she felt compelled to perform in these freak-offs because of a fear that she or her friends may be thrown off a balcony by Diddy, and that this is part of the compulsory element to it. The defense countered with the argument of, well, this is backward-looking, it's not forward-looking, and that this shouldn't be used to show her mental state. I personally feel that the defense had a better argument to make with respect to that particular element. The stronger argument is, if this was purely, the objective was to show her mental state, the state would have brought this up on Cassie's testimony. Why are they bringing it up now after Bana's testimony? The only reason they want to introduce it now is so that the jury believes that this incident actually happened. That's the only reason that they're introducing it now. And the timing of when they're introducing this evidence makes clear that the most likely reason they want to bring this in is not to display what Cassie's mental state is, but to try and bolster for the jury that they believe that the balcony incident actually happened. And it is, and that would be pure hearsay. But those arguments were not raised by the defense. The issue as to the nature of the timing of the introduction of this evidence displays what the objective of the state is in introducing this evidence. That argument was not made by the defense, and in fact they lost on this, and that evidence is going to come in. Now, a jury is only allowed to look at it, in theory, for purposes of understanding Cassie's mental state, but history has shown with many juries, I know nothing about this jury, with many juries, that once evidence comes in for reason A, even if it's not supposed to be trusted for the truth of the matter asserted therein, many juries tend to actually fall into trusting it and saying, well, I guess it happened, and trusting the truth of the matters asserted in that text message. And I think that this arguably was a bad call here by the judge in allowing this evidence in, because the timing here really displays this is not about Cassie's mental state. This is about trying to repair the damaging cross-examination of Bana's testimony about the balcony incident. That's my thoughts on this. I'm Joe Neerman, aka Good Logic. If you enjoyed this and want more content like this, I urge you please like, share, subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell. Till next time, Godspeed.